We want to hire employees who the panel has shortlisted. Or should we say, we want to hire employees whom the panel has shortlisted. The car whose color is red is Mark's. Or the car the color of which is red is Mark's. The book that you gave me was interesting. Can we drop relative pronoun that and say the book you gave me was interesting? Soon you will come to know which of the sentences were correct, as we are going to study in detail some of the important rules related to the use of relative pronouns. Relative pronouns are used to introduce clauses, which are a group of words that give additional information or important information about the nouns coming before them. Who, whom, whose, which, that and what are the most frequently used relative pronouns. In some cases, as, where, when and why can also be used as relative pronouns. But our focus will be on the first set of relative pronouns, as these are most frequently used. So let's begin with who. Who is used for only persons, and its form do not change irrespective of the gender or the number of the nouns that come before it. Let's see some examples to understand this. We want to hire employees who are hardworking and talented. Can you call Stella, who is waiting in the lobby? The teacher, who is very good at English, is teaching in the class. In all the three sentences, relative pronoun who remained the same irrespective the number or gender of nouns. Whom is the objective case of who. Now you need to understand this. Whom refers to the person who is the object of the relative clause. Now this person receives the action in the relative clause. See the following examples carefully to understand this. We want to hire employees whom the panel has shortlisted. Can you call Stella, whom we asked to wait in the lobby? The teacher, whom everybody calls an English expert, is in the class. Now the big question, how to decide between who and whom? Here you can remember an important information, that who is always followed by a verb, whereas whom replaces the object of a verb or a preposition in the relative clause. Now we'll see some examples and observe carefully how whom acts as the object of a verb or a preposition. We want to hire employees whom the panel has shortlisted. In this sentence, whom is acting as the object of verb shortlisted. Can you call Stella, whom we asked to wait in the lobby? If we rephrase the whom clause, we'll see that whom is the object of verb asked. The teacher, whom everybody calls an English expert, is in the class. In the whom clause, calls is the verb and its object is whom, which is teacher. Now let's see some examples with prepositions. The man from whom you sought help is calling you outside. In this sentence, whom is acting as an object of preposition from. The teacher to whom you have lent your book is our principal. In this sentence, to is the preposition, of which whom is the object. Whose or of which? This is another big question that most of us face. Whose has traditionally been used to show possession with people only, since whose is the possessive form of who, which is used only for people. However, in modern English, whose is being increasingly used to show possession with inanimate things as well. However, many grammarians and educators are of the strict view that of which should be used in such context where inanimate things are involved. So, what's the solution? In my opinion, if you are talking informally, you are in informal context or situations, or you are in conversation, you can use whose for both persons and inanimate things. But in more formal context, in situations where official communication is involved, you can go with of which to be grammatically correct. Let's see some sentences to see how of which and whose work in a sentence. The car whose color is red is Mark's. The car, the color of which is red, is Mark's. The factory whose owner lives abroad has been shut for 2 years. The factory, the owner of which lives abroad, has been shut for 2 years. We met at the hotel, whose manager is your friend. We met at the hotel, the manager of which is your friend. Besides animals and things, which can be used to refer to the entire clause mentioned previously. For example, Steve washed all the clothes yesterday, which gave him time to play today. Stella made my bed, which was kind of her. The police were deployed in the area, which was a wise move. Here, in all the sentences, which is referring to the clause previously mentioned. If in a sentence you want to refer to a person and an animal or an inanimate object, you should use relative pronoun that instead of who or which. For example, the boy and the dog that I was talking about are in the park. Both the men and the car that met with an accident are in bad condition. Steve and the books that you want to see are not available today. What as relative pronoun introduces a clause that refers to an unspecified idea or thing. In such a case, what would mean that which or the thing which? For example, what you told me made a lot of sense. Give the poor lady what she needs. Do what you are good at. As far as the position of relative pronouns is concerned, these are placed as close as possible to the nouns they modify. Generally, they appear at the beginning of a relative clause, directly after the noun they modify. Let's see some examples. Mark is getting treatment from the doctor who got injured. In this sentence, it appears it's the doctor who got injured. So we need to place who after Mark, whom it is modifying, as seen in the second sentence. The old mirror was discarded by Stella, which was broken. Even in this sentence, it seems Stella was broken, which is wrong. It's the mirror which was broken. Bob and Stella have not invited all their friends who have thrown the party. The first sentence conveys the wrong message that friends have thrown the party. Therefore, we need to say Bob and Stella, who have thrown the party, have not invited all their friends. Mark, that had been struggling to perform, was made the captain of the team. In this sentence, that clause needs to be carefully placed, and that is after the team. Who, whom, which, and that can be left out if they act as the object of a relative clause. In informal communication and spoken English, it's a quite common practice to leave out these relative pronouns. For example, the book that you gave me was interesting. The book you gave me was interesting. The car which Steve sold last week has met with an accident. The car Steve sold last week has met with an accident. The boy whom you met in the market owns a dog. The boy you met in the market owns a dog. It's not always possible to leave these relative pronouns out. We have to use them, especially when these act as the subject of a relative clause. For example, the book that was gifted to you was interesting. The book was gifted to you was interesting. The car which was sold last week has met with an accident. The car was sold last week has met with an accident. The boy who owns a dog is playing in the park. The boy owns a dog is playing in the park. Without that, which, and who, none of the sentences is making sense. Who, whom, which, and that can be omitted if they act as the object of a preposition. In that case, the preposition is placed at the end of the relative clause. For example, the girl to whom you were talking is my sister. The girl you were talking to is my sister. The car in which I was traveling broke down midway. The car I was traveling in broke down midway. Have you made the changes to which I drew your attention? Have you made the changes I drew your attention to? In all three examples, when we dropped the respective relative pronouns, the prepositions were placed at the end of the respective clauses. So friends, that was all about the important rules related to relative pronouns. This was the last lesson on pronouns. If you want to watch the previous lessons, then you can check out the playlist. The link to it is given above and in the description below. Also, you can download the Enliven English app. There you can get access to unlimited knowledge on grammar, especially the 8 parts of speech, free grammar tips, tests, and much more. On top of that, you can have a personal chat with me to get solution to your problems or doubts. I'll be back with a new lesson soon. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. Goodbye.